now. Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Hello, everyone. This is Christy Baker with the University of Missouri Extension and 4-H. Today, we're here at Campbell Feed, and we have our Purina. Why do I stumble over that every time, Sarah? We have our Purina nutrition expert, Sarah Leonard, with us today to talk about equine nutrition and what we need to do to keep our partners healthy. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, well, glad to be here today with you guys. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe spending some time just chatting with everybody out there, answering any questions you might have, and just collaborating here with Christy and Georgia when she gets done, and visiting with you about, enjoying horses and taking care of them.
You gotta love them.
You bet.
So, Sarah, we have a lot of questions, I'm sure, out there, but I'll go ahead and start with mine.
Okay.
I have a field of mares that are nursing foals right now. And the mares are, and the foals are kind of eating with the mares now. They're starting to eat with the mares. Right. What is the nutrition that they need, that they require, and what kind of feed covers that?
Well, honestly, it's going to vary between different owners, different horses, different operations. But I would tell you that we would start with the forage first and think about what you have out there, and then work your feeding program, meaning your grain, as people, commonly refer to it as, to complement your forage program. Because honestly, a horse is going to eat between 2 and 3% of its body weight in dry matter a day, and the majority of that is going to be forages. So if you have abundant pasture, abundant hay that's good quality, then we can come in and we can prescribe maybe a protein supplement with vitamins and trace minerals to complement that, like a Enrich Plus as an example. But however, most of the time with mares, our grass can't get it done. There's not enough nutrition. Either they can't eat enough of it, or it's not rich enough, for lack of a better terminology. So we have to supplement it with more protein, more energy, and the specific vitamins and trace minerals. So we would recommend a mare and foal feed at least through about 6 months of age for the pair, for the mare as well as the foal to be nibbling on as she's coming up. Protein is very important. Our diets would be a 16% protein in the grain mix, because protein makes milk, and we want that mare to lactate to her best ability. So we want to supplement
about a 16% protein.
Yes.
For the mare.
Mm-hmm. And for the babies as well. They usually just eat alongside of them. I would tell you though that if you were telling me you had a whole lot of alfalfa out there, I might change my recommendations a little bit, because maybe the alfalfa would be providing enough protein, and then we would concentrate on the vitamins and the trace mineral fortification. Mm-hmm. Big thing to do kind of as you think about all this is to look at a horse and look at the body condition on the horse and decide if the calories that you and your pasture or your forage program is providing is maintaining the body condition that you desire for your horses. Then you're meeting their energy requirements. And we'll probably talk about this several times during our session here, is how important using a body condition scoring is when you evaluate your nutrition program. Desire for your horses then you know you're meeting their energy requirements. And we'll probably talk about this several times during our session here, is how important using a body condition scoring is when you evaluate your nutrition program. For horses, meeting their energy requirements. We'll probably talk about this.
I'm hearing some.
I am too. Yeah.
I don't know what I've done to do that. I'm sure it's me. Let me see.
I can hear myself repeating there.
Yes, I'm hearing some. There I go again. What have I done? To do that? I'm sure it's me. Let me see.
I can hear myself repeating.
Yes, I'm hearing some. There I go again. What have I done? What is that? Row, row, row your boat. Okay. What is that? Row, row, row your boat. Okay. Has it quit now?
It has. Yeah.
Nope.
No.
I don't know what I did, guys, but you get to hear this great information 2 or 3 times.
Quit now.
Okay, I think what I did. Okay, can you still hear me, Sarah?
I can.
Okay. I think what I did is I clicked the go button on the live. And so it is a 20-second delay, as you know. So what I said 20 seconds ago is repeating.
Oh.
So we can go on, I think, because I just muted that. And we'll go on with what you were talking about. I have a question about fat content for the mare and foals. What should that be at?
Most of our grain mixes would be between 6 and 8% fat. So fat's kind of unique in the fact that when we add fat to a diet, it concentrates the calories, so they don't have to eat as much of it to get the energy, if you will.
Yeah.
It's safer that way. It doesn't cause a starch overload. It's palatable to a certain extent. Fat, as far as being natural for a horse or something that a horse is going to be drawn to, it's probably not the nutrient that it is. So we have to kind of be careful with it. We have some products that are very high in fat and sometimes can be less palatable because it's just foreign to them, if you will. But adding fat is a great way to concentrate feed as long as you're feeding the feed appropriately by feeding directions. So sometimes what happens is folks want to jump to the fat addition too quickly. Instead of feeding the grain, feeding their feed correctly according to feeding directions, they say, I'm just going to feed a pound or 2 of this mare and foal feed, and I'm going to add another pound of fat, when maybe they should be feeding 4, 5, or 6 pounds of the mare and foal feed. And that would be providing a complete balanced diet as opposed to just adding the fat.
I see.
Feed what you need to feed and then add the fat if you need to, if you need body condition, if the mare's getting drawn down, and then and consider it that way. Just don't go to the fat so quickly. On a mare, on a performance horse, even on a horse that you're not asking much of, feeding fat instead of feeding feed isn't really the way to go. Fat's good, but we just need to use it carefully.
Okay. Now, I've got a barrel horse in training. What do I need to give him to make sure I'm getting every ounce of speed out of his potential?
Well, excellent question. And actually this horse right behind me, it is a barrel horse. So it's our passion up here, and I appreciate that opportunity to talk about the barrel horse. The big thing with the barrel horse is, again, looking at the fuel that you're providing and thinking about it from a, am I getting enough fuel? Am I getting enough run, to your point? And am I doing it wisely? I mean, am I pushing the starch limit? Is my horse responding and having a cool head about it and using his head and focusing, you know, to the fullest extent, and then getting the run. So first and foremost, again, evaluating the forage and evaluating the grain and the feed that you're feeding, and making sure that, you know, with a performance horse, you're providing a probably between 4 and 8 pounds of a 14% protein. And the fat level in that can be in that 6 to 8% range. And most horses, this, you know, and I'm using it pretty broadly, that's going to fall in if we've got, you know, 15 to 20 pounds of a grass hay. Some people want to come in with a couple pounds of alfalfa with the grass hay. That's all good. But when you talk about getting that extra run, getting the maximum speed, then we get into fine tuning the amino acids, fine tuning the sources of energy that we're using so that we can sustain that run. So it doesn't start hard at the beginning of the run and wind down before he even gets to the third barrel. Okay. So we have performance feeds that are targeted with the carbohydrates and energy sources that are designed to provide that sustained energy. And then we have an amino acid supplement that's really targeted at muscles that are used in equine exercise that help, you know, sustain that athletic ability and then help with the recovery as well.
Mm-hmm. That's
Super
incredible.
Sport is my favorite go-to. I use the Super Sport amino acid on our horses when we're really running hard, when we're really hauling a lot. And then I use our base feed, like an Ultium, like a Strategy, like an Impact Professional Performance, to provide that foundational nutrition package.
Does that happen to include any joint supplements, or is that something additional that you would have to add?
That would be additional. We don't have, and by design, we don't choose to incorporate the joint supplements in our supplement line or in our nutrition program, because every horse is an individual, and we would encourage you to use those appropriately based on those individual horses. If we would try to say, put it in one of our feeds, sure enough, somebody would say, well, I don't need it and I don't want it. And it would be in there anyway.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What we do have for our performance riders is our gastric supplement added to some of our feeds. Because so many horses, whether they're barrel horses or reiners or you know, ropers, or maybe they're, you know, dressage or an English discipline, a lot of time there's stress and an overload of just a lot of pressure on those horses, where providing a gastric supplement to those horses' diet can be beneficial. So we've included our gastric supplement that helps neutralize the pH in the stomach, to neutralize the acid, to raise the pH, to help that horse feel more comfortable. We've added that in several of our lines of feed: the Ultium GT, the Strategy, the Impact Professional Performance, our Omeline lines. So if they're feeding 4 pounds in a meal, they're getting a dose of that gastric supplement. So that's that, you know, not so much on the joint supplements, but on the gut stuff, we have added that to several feeds.
Georgia just handed me this.
I can't read it, but I would suspect it's
Outlast gastric support supplement.
So if you don't, you know, and we run into this a lot. Sometimes folks say, well, I'm not feeding 8 pounds a day of Strategy, as an example. Maybe they don't need to, because body condition is right, calories are lined up. You know, we don't need the additional feed, if you will. So we would recommend that you grab a bag of the Outlast supplement and just add the supplement to whatever you're feeding, instead of depending on getting it in the feed. So you can kind of go at it several different ways. And Georgia might be standing there. You might ask her if she's got the Outlast treats. Do you have any Outlast treats there at the store?
Outlast treats? Yes. Georgia has it here.
Awesome. So I would tell you that you know, a lot of folks don't believe in treating horses because it starts some bad habits. But I would tell you, this horse standing behind us here, we still supplement the Outlast with her feed. But when we go places, sometimes she gets a little nervous. And that treat has allowed us to actually give her a dose of that Outlast gastric supplement standing at the trailer. So about 30 minutes, before she runs, we give her 5 or 6 treats, which is a half a dose of that Outlast. And boy, she calms down and she's not as fidgety, and it just works out real well.
Oh, and here's some carb conscious treats.
Yeah. So those are for some horses that might be a little bit on the insulin resistant side, metabolic disorders kind of thing, but the owners still want to treat their horses. And that allows them to do it without providing extra carbohydrates, starches, and sugars.
Well, we've covered my pregnant mares. We've covered mine and your barrel horse. What about all of our trail riders out there that, want to go on the 5-10 mile rides on the weekends?
Right.
But I guess have them turned out during the week.
Yeah.
What kind of requirements, nutrition requirements would they need?
So those folks, it's kind of, it can be twofold. Certainly we want to make sure those horses are not, totally couch potatoes during the week, and we're keeping them legged up so they're in shape. Yeah. So when they go climb the mountain on the weekend, that they're not pulling muscles, that kind of thing. So, for the maybe more competitive trail riders, they're probably a little more in tune to feeding a feed during the week that's going to provide for that balanced calcium, phosphorus, the trace minerals, the protein, all of that flies back. I see it. Yeah. All of that. So, most of our performance feeds would be adequate from meeting a horse's NRC requirements in a 4 pound per day feeding rate. So 2 pounds in the morning, 2 pounds at night. That's really not a lot of feed. Even some of our barrel horses would sustain on that, but that's a small amount of feed. But that even might be too much for some of these folks where their horses are turned out, on pasture 24/7. They seem to look fat and shiny, but honestly, I would look fat and shiny too if all I did is eat French fries, right? So we got to remember that grass is sometimes like French fries, and we have to come in with our fruits and vegetables, if you will. We got to come in with the right amount of protein and vitamins and trace minerals. So they can take a product like our Enrich Plus, and I'm sure George has got that there, and they could feed a pound or a pound and a half a day of that would balance their forages, balance their pasture, and those horses would be fit and ready to go when they ask them to do something on the weekend. So you got a cup there, and that cup got lines on the side, and so that pound of Enrich Plus would be what they would need to feed their horse to match to be, have that bloom, have that health, have that immune response, have all the good stuff that they're asking their trail horse to do. And 9 out of 10 times that with forage, good quality forage, is enough to sustain. Unless they're doing competitive trail rides and they're really asking a lot of their horse, and then we could talk to them individually about, different performance speeds.
Uh-huh. And I'm pretty impressed that this cup has all the measurements.
Yeah.
Pound, half pound. We've got 12 ounces, 10 ounces.
So we have to, there's Super Sport on there, which is the amino acid supplement that we talked about. That's measured in ounces. We've got the Outlast supplement on there that's measured in grams. We've got the Enrich there. We've even got the Amplify, which is that fat you asked about earlier. So again, you could take that cup and ask Georgia for those cups. She would have those available and deliver those supplements. Amazing. Yeah.
That's a whole lot better than a McDonald's cup.
Yes. Yeah.
So, do we have any questions out there from our viewers? I don't see any now, but I just want to tell you that if you do think of a question that you would like to ask about equine nutrition, leave it in the comments. Sarah and I will both be checking on it to answer any of the questions that you might have. Sarah, can you tell us something new that Purina is coming up with that might be that feed that we've all been waiting for?
Well, actually, I will tell you about what we've got probably coming down the pike this fall is a tub. And typically, we haven't been in the tub industry with equine for several reasons. And one is because we want to make sure that we're providing the right nutrition for that horse when we allow that horse to free choice of feed. And for us, that requires a whole lot of diligence behind the scene before we just come out with a tub and say, have at it. We want to make sure we've done our homework. And we have actually created a tub that provides a lot of awesome nutrition, would be kind of similar to the Enrich in a tub form that you could put out there on the pasture, and include Clarifly, which is a product to help with facility flies. So we could get some there in the store with you. Maybe that would help you. So it's
Give
more
me some Clarifly right now.
Right. It's more than just a fly tub. It's more of a nutritional tub, more of a protein tub than a fly tub, but the fly additive is an added benefit, if you will. So we're coming out with that. And so that would be something that these folks that travel a lot, maybe would want to, trail riders, anything, could take that along to put that out in their turnouts and work out pretty well. So that's something there. The Outlast was new last year. Trying to think new. I mean, like, I get calls every day, folks asking about extruded feed or asking about complete feeds, asking about comparing a feed tag. That might be something that we could visit about, because that probably is something we really should talk about, because sometimes our first go-to is to grab that tag off of the feed bag and compare it. Well, it's a 14% protein. It's a 6% fat. It must be the same. And I would tell you that a feed tag, we appreciate them, but they're a regulatory document that's regulated by AFCO, which is looking down on all the feed manufacturers and making sure they got the identification of the feed, a purpose statement, the net weight, the ingredients, listed with collective terms or individual. I mean, there's a lot of restrictions on that tag, but there's a lot of things that tag doesn't tell you about the feed that folks that might not realize. First off, it really doesn't tell you the formula. People think it's a 14% and they see that number one ingredient and they think they know the formula, but the formula is not indicated on the feed tag. Okay. So what a 14% all stock, as an example, could look very similar on the tag as a 14% performance horse feed. There wouldn't be a lot of difference in the tag. Okay. But there's a whole lot of difference in the nutrition. And I'm just saying that on our brand. I know our 14% Crossroads doesn't look a lot different than our 14% high end. So just kind of be aware of that. The tag doesn't tell you anything about the quality of the ingredients that the manufacturer uses. It doesn't talk anything about the safety protocols they use at the plant, anything like that. So honestly, it kind of gives the bare minimum. It doesn't give you starches and sugars, which we need to talk about starches and sugars here today too, because that's real important. So it doesn't give you starches and sugars, and it doesn't tell you the kilocalories that are in the feed. So, when we talk about kilocalories, we talk about providing those calories for the horse so we have the adequate body condition. And in order for me to do that appropriately, I need to know the calories in every pound of feed that feed's contributing to the diet. So without that information, it's hard for me to formulate a diet. So I know, Strategy feeds at 1,550 kilocalories per pound. Impact Professional, 1,550. Ultium GT, 1,900, or Ultium Competition 1,900, Ultium GT 1,750. I know this, and I know that's how they're coming into the diet. But when you just look at a feed tag, it's not on there. So, just saying. I'll stop yapping for a minute.
The quality of the ingredients has a whole lot to do with the quality of the feed.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Are they busy there at the store today?
Well, some old friends of mine just walked in.
Okay.
Gary Jeffries, and looks like his wife. Hey. And I'm sure they're here to get really good horse feed.
All right.
Today, Jerry. Strategy, Healthy Edge.
All right.
Equine Senior for a couple of their older horses and Jerry. But I tell you what, that barrel horse that I'm looking at in your picture, it sure is nice.
Well, we think a lot of her. She's a 7-year-old mare, and we've had her here since she was just a little over a yearling. And my daughter started her, and she's part of the family, that's for sure. She does all right.
They become a part of the family. I
Yes,
guess that's why we want to feed them the very best we can possibly afford to feed them.
That's
Just
right.
Make sure, make sure they're doing good and okay.
Yeah.
So what do you feed that mare?
Oh, what do we feed her? We feed her, I give her 6 pounds a day of our Impact Professional Performance, plus 2 pounds of our Impact Hay Stretcher, plus a dose of Super Sport amino acid supplements. So that's what she gets in a day. The Hay Stretcher is a product of ours that kind of adds the fibrous portion and really kind of allows you to either feed less hay, or maybe in some cases allows horses to process the fiber in it a little bit better than just hay, if you will. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have some good quality hay here, but the Hay Stretcher just allows that horse to maybe stay a little bit fitter. You don't have to necessarily get that big old hay belly. And we just really like it. It safeties up any kind of diet. It's kind of like the Equine Senior that your friends buy in there. That product is a complete feed. And when we say it's complete, the fiber, the forage, if you will, is already in the feed. It's a complete feed. Not very many people feed it that way, but that you could. And you could feed Hay Stretcher the same way. So it's super safe. And, we add it around here. We feel like it really hydrates the gut. It really is providing that total mixed ration. If, we got any cattle guys watching, we talk about TMRs and cattle diets. When we had the Hay Stretcher to some of our premium horse feeds, we kind of get that TMR effect, if you will.
Well, you have given us some really, really good tips and good advice on what to feed our babies.
Yeah.
Love it. We're getting about to the end of our go here. Okay. But before we do, I think you said you had something else to talk about.
Well, I was going to mention the starches and sugars and we didn't go there yet. That's kind of a buzzword. A lot of times, and probably Georgia would say when people come in, they say, I want something low starch. I've heard that I should be feeding low starch feeds, and sometimes they should and sometimes they shouldn't. It just kind of depends on the horse. It seems like some horses are more sensitive to starch than others. But one of probably the biggest myths in the horse feeding world is that oats are low in starch. So oats are not low in starch. oats are over 50% starch. So
Oh, wow.
sometimes when folks think they want to kind of cool things off, they feed straight oats, or they might feed oats and enrich and feel like that's kind of a way to kind of put the brakes on. But actually they're kind of doing the opposite. Oats are kind of like candy, and they're full of starch. So our feeds that would be lower in starch would be like the Ultium competition, like the Impact Professional Performance that I feed her. It's sitting at about a 17% starch versus oats at over 50.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference.
Strategy Healthy Edge is sitting in there at about 18% starch. Strategy Regular is about 26% starch. But all of those are half of the starch of oats. And then if you take like a grind and mix or a sweet feed, even one of our sweet feeds, and you look at the corn and the oats, that combination, you know, we're approaching 60% starch when we bring in that corn. So that can be kind of scary and risky. And particularly if you have ulcers in your horse and you say, hey, I think I got some ulcers and I'm feeding this high starch feed, maybe changing your feeding program to move into something lower in starch would be a path to take on your way to recovering from the ulcer challenge.
Good advice.
So.
Well, I think we have come to the end of our go here. I don't see any questions.
All right. Well, that's okay. Hopefully, maybe we get something started and next time they'd have some.
Absolutely. Well, by the looks of that horse behind you, you know how to feed a horse.
All right. Well, it's been good talking to you all today.
Thank you so much for your time, Sarah. We really appreciate it. And y'all be sure and come down here to Campbell Feed, because they have some really neat stuff here. And everything you need to make sure your equine partner is taken care of. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Sarah.
You bet.